Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Nick and I make videos about things that I like. Usually that's either gaming or design. Today's video is going to be a little bit more design focused. In fact, it's going to be entirely design focused. The last couple of videos have been more gaming focused, so today I'm going to swing it back over to design. If that sounds at all interesting to you, please feel free to subscribe, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it, and please do always leave a comment if you have anything that you would like to say. I always love having discussions in the comments with you guys and hearing your thoughts on the things that I make videos about. Just a disclaimer, this video is going to be, it's probably going to feel a little bit different than my normal videos. It's unscripted, I don't have a script, I kind of have some things that I want to say, but I want to get kind of my raw feelings and my raw thoughts about this product out and just in a more organic way, more than writing a full script and having every single thing planned out. So if it feels a little bit different, that's why. Today's video, as you've probably gleaned from the thumbnail, is going to be focused on this little guy, the Hobolite Iris. Now, I'm not entirely certain how you are supposed to pronounce the name of this company. It's either Hobolite or Hobolite. I'll probably be using the two interchangeably. But yeah, I have no idea how I'm supposed to pronounce that word. Regardless, though, the product that we're talking about today is the Hobolite Iris. And the Hobolite Iris is a chip-on-board filming / photography light. Essentially what a chip-on-board or COB light is a LED light which uses a bunch of tiny little diodes all crammed together really tightly to produce light. And the advantage of this approach is that it's able to be a lot more energy efficient and a lot more heat efficient. So for every watt that you put into these diodes, you get less heat and also more light. And the alternative to a chip-on-board design is a panel design. And this is what you'll usually see. I think Aperture have a couple of options for that, a couple of small options, and there are a wide range of larger panel options. The main difference is that you can't do the same lighting effects with a chip-on-board design because the LEDs kind of act as one instead of an array, which you can kind of have. You can kind of think of a panel light as a really low-resolution display. So you're able to kind of address each light individually, which allows you to have things like fire effects or lightning effects, a lot more specific control over those lights. This is not going to be a review. This is not going to be telling you whether or not you should buy this or whether or not this is going to be worth your money. This is simply my thoughts on the design of this beautiful little guy. So we should probably get into that now. So, starting with the design, let's get the really obvious things out of the way right now. This looks like a camera. That's Hobolite's it's kind of their thing. All of their lights kind of look like more classic-y kind of film cameras. And that is very much intentional. This is not by mistake. This is not a normal form factor for small lights or chip-on-board lights. Usually the form factor is that the light diode is right, first and foremost, right at the front, and then everything else follows behind it in a long, not tube, but like rectangular housing. And so they're really breaking from that design trend with this little guy, and all of their lights actually, but again, we won't really be touching on those in this video. This one specifically looks very intentionally like a little point and shoot camera, like a film camera. It's got this grip here, which definitely calls back to that. It's got all of its controls right here, right by your thumb, which is, again, another callback to cameras, small little pocketable cameras. That is very clearly what they're going for with this guy. I think what really makes this more than just a camera-shaped light is the attention to detail. Before I talk about all the tiny little things that I like about this, though, I think this is really appealing to photographers and people who work with cameras in general, just because it's just such a cool little idea to make a functional light that feels like a camera, that looks like a camera, because I think there's kind of nothing more that photographers and videographers and just people who love cameras love more than lights that are also kind of cameras. So you can go on Etsy and find any number of people making, taking old broken film cameras or digital cameras and cramming a light bulb into the sensor housing, and it's just so fun. It's so fun to see two things that are so integral to photography mashed together, and that's a dichotomy that I think a lot of people who work with cameras, a lot of people who are enthusiastic about cameras really love and just like to see and just like to experience. So, you know, that's a very cool and maybe not popular, but it's a very unique thing for Hobolite to target with this light. What makes this one in particular so appealing is that they do kind of target that smaller point and shoot kind of look. With their other lights, they do target more of like the Hasselblad high-end, very like vintage, high-quality boxy cameras. And that's not to say this isn't targeting high-quality vintage looks, but it's targeting it's going for a much more point and shoot, a much more pocketable camera, which is exactly what this is. It's just a pocketable light. You know, you throw it in your pocket, go out on a shoot, maybe you need a little bit of a light down in the corner or something, and you whip this out and do your lighting needs, you know. It's not the most powerful. It's not the brightest light that they make at all. It's not the brightest light that you can probably get for $100, even though it is a chip on board light, which generally do boast a higher brightness, but it's bright enough. I'll give you a little bit of a demo. That's at its peak setting, which is certainly nothing to scoff at. You know, if this is about out of your frame, that's plenty. That is plenty for like a fill or you know, maybe a hair light or a kicker or something like that. Totally usable, definitely bright enough. So yeah, it's certainly functional and it certainly gets the job done. You can probably find a brighter light out there, sure. You can probably link one in the description. I'm sure you have one that you're just shouting at your screen. I'm not saying this is the be-all, end-all of you know, bang for buck or anything. But I do think that what you maybe give up a little bit of brightness in the light, you certainly make up for in just quality of life and appeal of using it. You know, there is just so much appeal to using this light, and that is, I think, a more important factor than you might initially realize. You go to a shoot and you have all the production assistants who have been working with the same aperture lights day in, day out for God knows how long. You know, if you come in and you have unique, interesting lights, they're going to potentially kickstart some creative energy in those people. Some creative juices get flowing, and you can potentially get some better results than you may have previously. And even if they aren't technically on par with, you know, the highest end lights, you can get more than kind of what the specs give you if you infuse a little bit of creativity. And I think these lights engender creativity because they break you out of the more monotonous zone. Working with something like this, you kind of find different ways of working with it. You find its limitations, you find its quirks and its little things, and that can potentially, you know, lead to a better result just because you're working with something new. You're having to figure things out. You're having to be creative. And I think new and interesting designs like this kind of engender that. But enough of the philosophy and kind of more ephemeral things. Let's talk about some of the reasons that I like it so much. I think that it's a very efficiently designed product, and I think where that efficiency comes is from the people who designed it having a real passion for this product, and a real, I can tell when I hold this, when I use it, that the people who designed it really enjoyed the process of designing it. They had to have iterated endlessly, made countless prototypes and just models after models, and trying to figure out the perfect form factor, the perfect placement for different elements, and all of that stuff. The industrial design of this, I think, is superb. It is top-notch, it's excellent. The people over at Hobolite are, in my opinion, just absolute masters of what they're doing. If I had this in my portfolio, that would be like peak for me. That would be the pinnacle, that would be it, that would be... This is such an elegant design in so many ways. The least of which not being the kind of formal balance that they're able to achieve. It's very easy for professional equipment to get very bogged down with controls, and I think this being a light really benefits from the fact that lights really have a couple controls, maybe color temperature, brightness, you know, that's about it, and then everything else can be handled with placement and you know, modifiers, diffusers, softboxes, things like that. What I'm trying to say is that I really appreciate the control section of this light. They really incorporated a really great knob. It's got a nice tactile feedback, which is not too sharp, it's not too harsh. One, it doesn't make noise, which is great for filming video if you need to change the light while you're filming, but it also does give you physical feedback with what you're changing, which is always good if you have a knob. Yeah, I'm generally not a fan of free spinning knobs that just infinitely spin without any kind of feedback. Those are not my favorite. And they didn't do that on this light, which is really great, and I really appreciate that. But also just physically, the way that they integrated this knob into this light is just very pleasing. It's very, you know, it's nestled in there just extremely well. It's such a beautiful knob, you know? It's got a really nice click. Having it be a small little knob not only doesn't draw too much attention to it, but it also mirrors controls on cameras, which is integral to the design itself. Yeah, knob, good knob. I approve of this knob. I don't want to get too bogged down by all of the formal elements and talking about all of the little details and everything, because I think ultimately it's very evident right up front that this is a very successful design. You know, everything's well balanced. The circle doesn't overlap the edges. It's very well contained within the main unit. It's mirrored throughout all the controls. There's a lot of coherency with all of the formal elements that they use. And that's all very evident up front. I think what makes this design so uniquely great, so amazing in its own right, is really just the designer's passion. I think that is kind of the main selling point for this particular product, because yes, it functions, it absolutely functions, it does its job, you know, it does what it's supposed to do, but it's the little things. It's the fact that they have a slot for gel filters that you can slot directly in and out so that you can, I don't know, get that small little physical interaction, which it just helps, you know, add a little touch of delight when you put in a gel filter. And then there's what I would consider to be probably my favorite feature, which is the magnetic attachment ring for all of the accessories. It just feels like magic. It just feels like a touch of magic. You know, you just take your accessory and just slap it on and you're done. There's no screws, there's no adhesives, nothing. It just connects and you're good. And it's that attention to detail that I think really makes this stand out from its other competitors. It's just everything about it feels just so elegant and easy to use. It's an aesthetic feature which doesn't really give you a function, but it gives you a feeling. And I think those feelings are just as important sometimes as function, because if we're not excited to use a product, if we're not excited to actually use this thing that we just bought, then it's not unlikely that it would just die in your bag, you know? And I think that that's something that's sometimes overlooked with, especially with filming gear and equipment, is it's kind of just functional, you know? It's like, it does the job that it needs to do, but it doesn't really bother too much with making sure that it's fun to use or enjoyable to use, or that the interactions are satisfying and feel good. So that's something that I really appreciate that they did with this light. There are some things that I don't like about it. There are some limitations that it has. The major one being the battery. I've found that this battery lasts maybe 20 to 30 minutes, full blast, just continuous use. And that might be enough for what you're doing, you know. A small product photography shoot might not take much more than 30 minutes if you're just shooting some shots and going. But, you know, if you're running and gunning, 30 minutes is not that much, and having this die on you in the middle of the field might not be great, especially if you are actually relying on it for specific shots. That would be not great. Now, they do mitigate that one shortcoming with the ability to just charge it while you're using it and pass that energy through to the diode itself, just through USB-C. So it's really not that big a deal if you just bring a power bank with you. That's not a problem. That's really not going to be an issue, and a lot of photographers do just bring like power banks and power bricks with them all the time. And if you're in a studio environment, it's really not that big of a deal. You're going to have access to power, so just plug it in. As long as you have a long enough cord, you're good. So yeah, I mean, the one drawback functionally that I would say to this is fairly minor. It's not really a deal breaker because there are so many solutions to it. I would love if they had taken the approach that they did with the Hobolite Micro, where it has a detachable battery. I think that would have been great. Or if perhaps this backplate had some kind of like MagSafe-esque feature where you can get a bigger battery pack and plug it into the back. Sometimes that's just not within the scope of the project, and I suspect having that kind of mechanical interaction would potentially have made it more larger. It would potentially have made it larger, and certainly adding a bigger battery would have made it larger, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a small portable light like this. So I can understand that limitation and that shortcoming. It's not really a deal breaker is my point. I mean, some people, I guess, don't really like the inclusion of apps with hardware. I personally don't really care as long as the app is fine to use. I think their app is perfectly fine to use. It gives you plenty of features. It essentially just gives you the same control that you have with the light, just in the app. So one, it's entirely optional. There's no features that are hidden behind the app, which is great. Love that. Aside from the ability to put it to sleep, but that doesn't really matter. You can just turn it off. But yeah, I mean, I think this is, like I said at the beginning, I think this is pretty much a perfect product. You know, no product is actually perfect. There are shortcomings to everything. But if I had to pick one product that I think is pretty much perfect, pretty much exactly everything that I would want it to be, it would probably be this guy. Because it's just so unique and delightful to use, which is something that I think doesn't quite get enough value. I think it's easy to evaluate whether a product is good based off of whether it does the thing that it purports to do, and that's fair. I mean, obviously products should do the things that they say that they're going to do. I'm not arguing against that at all. However, I think the delightfulness of using a product should definitely be part of that evaluation, because using the product is part of the function. So if you don't enjoy using it, I think that it did fail a little bit in terms of function, right? I think having unique, beautiful, fun designs like this just add to an already good product. And something that I really respect about the team behind this, like I said, is their devotion to making a good product. Their very clear passion for this product and for making a product that people would enjoy using. In product design, if you can make a product that the user enjoys using and that enjoyment kind of drives them to use your product, you've kind of won, right? Because you can kind of count on that person to then come back to you whenever they need a product that you offer. Yeah, I mean, I really did just kind of want to gush about this guy. I kind of just wanted to show it to you and tell you how great I think it is and just how important I think that it is for design. I think Hobolite are doing something really cool with calling back to older, more retro camera designs in their lights. I think it just adds a little bit of fun and intrigue to a potentially tedious process, which, you know, lighting a scene can sometimes be. You know, lighting the scene is not really necessarily for a lot of people the fun part of photography. It's usually the final product, but the process can get tedious, and adding little touches like having beautiful lights which are fun to interact with and feel good to change the settings of, that can be a big factor, and it can really push people's creativity and what they're able to get with the product that you've made. But yeah, I won't take up any more of your time. I'll try to keep this kind of short. I love this. I think it is a great example of what design can do for the creative process and what good designs can do for the use of those products, because it is so important that designers enjoy what they're making and really have a passion for what they're making. That's not always possible, but when it is, it produces just the best results. And if there is any way to incentivize that and make that happen, I think we should absolutely be doing it, because there really is just nothing like a product that's made by people who loved making it and loved every bit of it. So yeah, and I think this is a really great example of exactly that, and what happens when designers enjoy making what they're making. Oh yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this interesting and beautiful to look at. I've tried to include as much B-roll as possible to show off what this looks like, and just how beautiful it is. Hopefully I've gotten that across. But yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that I see you here again. I hope I see you on the channel again, and I hope I see you in the comments, because again, I always love having discussions in the comments, talking to you guys, hearing what you think, even if, you know, it's not really an ongoing discussion, just hearing what you think about the products that I cover. It's always really, really fun to hear and fun to hear from you guys and talk to you guys. So yeah, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you like what I'm making. That would be very much appreciated. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.